hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into post-game Judd's Hockey Show. Judd and AJ, fresh off watching a 3-2 Wild shootout victory here, Grand Casino Arena, in which the Wild played just an absolutely, for the most part, great game. It was a fantastic hockey game. The Avalanche, of course, come in as the best team in the National Hockey League, 17-1-5, one loss in regulation all season. That's right, 39 points. They leave at 17-1-6, so they do get a point, 40 points, but the Wild picks up 2 points, now 14-7-4, remaining in third place in the Central Division. So much to get to, individual performances, highlights from both sides. But AJ, I looked at you about late in the third period, I think, and I said, when's the last time you remember being at a game in this building, a Wild game that's been this competitive and this good? Take out the playoffs. Because I simply cannot recall the last time, and we're both at a lot of games, I can't recall the last time I was at a regular season game this entertaining. Credit to both teams.
This is from opening puck drop. Two teams that clearly are hitting a stride in a groove. The Avalanche obviously have been the best team all season long. To my knowledge, they still have only one regulation loss all season long. We're basically at the end of November here. That is surreal. And the Wild really turning a key here in the month of November and continuing that here today. This is high flying action. And the Wild, I think, and maybe I'll see if you agree with this, I don't think they really veered off their style today as much as they catered their style to that of the Avalanche. We've seen them smother teams, kind of not bore the game to death and like take what they can do here, but they played a little more flashy. They played a little more high speed. This was good hockey all night long. And I mean, we got overtime action. I know we both were kind of groaning and moaning when the backouts to neutral ice kind of killed the high octane flow, but there's not much else you could ask. I mean, you had good officiating, the officiating night and day from this past Wednesday.
Yeah,
you had good goaltending. You had you kind of had that bitter rivalry that you would expect between two good teams, and you saw it here tonight. This was fantastic hockey. Everybody that paid got their money's worth, and it just shows the Wild can match up with the best team in the NHL. So I think it's safe to say that this team might be who they actually are.
We'll talk about Caprizov's 2 goals, but let's start with what I think is the story of this game, and that's the goaltending. Jesper Wallstedt faced 41 shots in this game. He gives up 2 goals. The first goal was Caprizov got worked for the puck in the corner, pass out front to Nathan MacKinnon. There was nothing he could do about that. The second goal was Landeskog outworked Brock Faber for the puck, flipped the puck in. It was not a bad goal on the goaltender. It was an unfortunate goal. But the play of Wallstedt, to me, and look, Gustafsson's been great. Like, there's no question that Wallstedt's play has helped Gus's play rise. And in the first period, if Gus doesn't play like he did in the first period on Wednesday in Chicago, they lose that game. So just to be very clear, this is not any type of knock on Philip Gustafsson. But in the shootout alone, Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, the last 2 shooters for the Avs, were stopped by Wallstedt. He is everywhere. He is as smooth as I've seen. I don't remember the last time I was this excited about a Wild goaltender and just the control. You know, in sports, they talk about a quarterback being flatline, right? Like your pulse doesn't raise, it doesn't go, it just stays. It feels like Wallstedt plays exactly that way. And you talked about this, I think, on the show a couple days ago. The confidence that guy is going to make saves is so high. He made 2 saves in the first period that were just like 1-2, bang, bang, and the second one was incredible. So I really think there's a lot to like about how the team played. I think that their structure is very sound. So, and that definitely helps the goaltender. So to take nothing away from the structure, but my God, the way that this kid is playing, if this continues, this is a guy, dare I say it, and I'm going to say it, it's premature, but this is a guy that you just plug in for the start of the playoffs and you don't take out. And I know that might ruffle some feathers, but he is playing that sound and that well, And I think we need to have a conversation about what, a kid that played 3 games in October and, was deemed a backup. He is emerging, and the save percentage, the goals against, show it, as one of the best goaltenders right now in the National Hockey League.
This was the guy that they drafted. This was who I think the hockey world kind of touted and scouts put, the work on to label and kind of project him as a franchise future goaltender. Yes, the wave of his career so far has been a roller coaster up until this point. Last year, terrible. And I'm sure he would say that. Like there was reason for a lot of people to maybe say, you know what, you have to move on from him. It's you want to look forward to getting maybe a more capable backup. And there was a lot of questions, I think, in the offseason of, is he going to be able to be a capable backup? Well, right now he's looking like a guy that could and potentially should, to what you're saying, take the starting role. He is so good in net. He is so fluid. He's the way that he's able to move across the crease, make a save, kick a rebound out, recognize it's a potentially dangerous area, and in one fluid motion, it's save, pivot, push off, and reposition himself. It's in the blink of an eye. It's all in one motion, and what is essentially a 4 to 5 step process, he makes it look so easy. And like you said, the confidence that he's playing with, and I think it's rubbing off on the guys in front of him because the defense has been looking a little bit better. They're playing with a little more swagger. They're playing hey, this is our game. We're controlling the pace here. And you're seeing that on a night in, night out basis. And whether it is him or it is Gus, I'm feeling confident, but I do feel that extra level of insurance and security with Wallstedt in goal because of just how good he's been playing. I mean, we've seen some really talented youngsters on this team. Caprizov won the Calder. Rossi was in that conversation. Brock Faber was in that conversation. He inevitably lost it to Bedard, but right now, I mean, you have Matthew Schaefer out in New York on the Isle, and I think he is the front runner for sure. But Wallstedt is making a heck of a case to say, why not him? Why is he not a top 3, if not the Calder front runner right now?
Yeah. With Schaefer's story, how well he's played, I think he's going to probably, unless things change a lot, win the Calder. But yeah, Wallstedt is 100% in contention, has been absolutely fantastic. And just to clarify what I said, okay? So I know that we want to talk about who's the number 1 right now, but that's not how the league necessarily works now, like unless it's Shesterkin or something, okay? So I don't think you need to clarify that. The 2 goaltenders of late have rotated. They've both been fantastic. Again, Gustafsson on Wednesday stood on his head in the first period and saved that game literally for you. So I don't think that question's important now. But come springtime, if you're in the playoffs, and right now, after an awful October, the Wild is certainly tracking to be in the playoffs, I think that you have a definite discussion then, because I want to ride a goaltender. With the way the playoffs are structured now, game on, day off, game on, day, how it's structured now. I think it becomes a real discussion because I don't need this. What was the year in Dallas 3 years ago now? Gus played, or Fleury played great in game 1, or Gus played great in game 1, and Dino brought the other one back in game 2, and it didn't go as well, and momentum killed. So I think this becomes a discussion in the spring, but I think it's a discussion that we can start to have now because when I see how Melissa's exactly right. Wally's puck tracking was incredible, but that's what he does. He tracks the puck, and because of that, he makes these saves that look like save 1 and save 2 are connected. It's not like he makes 2 great saves. He makes one great save that leads into the right positioning. So I do think this is a discussion. I don't think it's a problem now. In fact, I think it's a good problem. But that was the first talking point. Let's move on to Caprizov, who, it's funny, offensive zone-wise, second period especially, was great. I will say this, and we saw this a little bit. I'd like to see a little bit more responsibility in his own zone, though.
Yeah.
There was he lost the puck in the corner on the goal that became the McKinnon goal. There was also in the third period, he didn't get the puck out at one point. But in the offensive zone, 2 great goals, including the second one, which came on a fantastic pass by 38, not 36, Ryan Hartman. And as you said, that might have been enough for Ryan Hartman just to ascend back to that first line, and John Hines won't even give it a second thought, despite the fact I think that Yurov continues to be incredibly solid.
On the Kaprizov thing, it seems like they kind of live or die sometimes by how well he plays in his own zone. Like we know what he's going to bring offensively, and we've seen this with other guys where they are just, I mean, a tremendous player in the offensive zone, and he's established that he is that. But I think one of the things that fans love and coaches love and we love about him is typically he's a safety net in the defensive zone too. I mean, you've at one point kind of got the barrel out to bang on the drum for him to be on the PK because of how good he is and can be in the defensive zone
last year. Yeah.
But there is, yes, very fair. But we've seen it this year where the inconsistencies and kind of the lackadaisical and just bad decision-making at times in his own zone creates catastrophic turnovers that lead to goals for the opposition. And it's one of those things where it's something to notice and it's something to continuously bring up. But I feel like we haven't seen sometimes major fixes. He'll go a few nights in a row where it's like, okay, we've put that behind us. It seems like he's put the seatbelt on and, it's a safety net in his own zone again. But you see tonight, he gets kind of rubbed out along the wall, and then he gets his pocket picked by Lehkonen, who throws it to the middle, to a McKinnon, who's not being picked out front whatsoever. There is that question of how long is this going to continue? Because you're not always going to have a night. And granted, they just played the best team in the NHL and were able to overcome it with an overtime win. But is that the difference between potentially a regulation win, an extra point against a division rival, and closing that gap even more in the division standings?
Right. Yeah. And playoffs, you cannot have that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It feels like the majority of this team now, since November started, is on board with their style of play. And Caprizov, I mean, God bless him, he is a phenomenal talent. But yeah, there's a few too many risks that he takes, and it doesn't necessarily fit in with the fact that I don't think John Hines wants risks. In fact, I would go as far as saying this. Don't know if you agree, but I'll tell you what I think about the OT. I think the Wild wanted to get to a shootout, and it worked. But it did not feel like they were very serious about scoring, especially as the OT dragged on. And let me give you Exhibit A, because there was some star power out there, man. McKinnon and Makar and Kaprizov. There were some great players. Boldy. Zebullion did not touch the ice. And, in fact, Brodin did, which goes back to how they were playing. I want to say the last OT here, at least, which was Carolina, right? I believe it was Carolina.
That feels right, yeah.
Okay, so Zeev actually, I think, was on the third rotation through as the defenseman, and I think Brodin didn't play there. And look, Zebullion eventually, I'm disappointed, okay? I'm disappointed he didn't play. I wanted to see that guy. I wanted to see the Wild's 8 against the Avs 8 with some open ice, just as a hockey fan. But it felt to me like the Wild was, or like John Hines was trying to get this thing to a shootout. He did. It worked out. But a little disappointed, though, because at some point in time, I really think it's going to be fun to watch Bouillon playing 3-on-3.
Yeah, it's on one part, it is a little disheartening because it did, like, I think you're right. It did feel like once they got to overtime and once they kind of got into, because we've seen him come off the bench as the third defenseman in overtime. So John Hines has that decision making, but it feels like that was almost a predetermined, we're going to go Brodin here. We're going to batten things down defensively. We want to backtrack and we want to kill a little time and get to the shootout. And maybe at this point, it's like, you know what? If that's what you feel is the most confident route to go, because clearly in the shootout, and you pointed this out right away off the Matt Zuccarello goal, Scott Wedgwood looked like a fish out of water. Like he had the reaction time of I don't know, like most grandparents of people watching here, dead or alive. It was not a very good showing for him. And so maybe the scouting by the Minnesota Wild determined, you know what, if we're going to pick up 2 points, the best route is the shootout. As a hockey fan and somebody who wants to see the high octane action, I want to see the Wild prove that they can beat this team, especially if you go to a overtime in a playoff game. There is no shootout to bail you out. So I wanted to see them maybe overcome it in the 3-on-3. Granted, that would be 5-on-5, so it's it's 1 point or another. I just down the road, I think, and I've said this, Zebullion, I think probably is the right answer there. For hockey fans, it probably would have been a little more entertaining, but that's where I'll flip it and say that's a good coaching decision for John Hines and the Wild, who have clearly made a lot of tinkers this month and it's working. So I'm not going to, die on a hill and say, oh, it should have been 8 instead of 25 out there.
Yeah.
I would have liked it, but you know what? It worked out. So kudos to them.
Yep. Two things off of that, just from a league global perspective. Number one, today was a game in which I want 10-minute OTs, and I want an over and back rule. So I want a rule that it's delay a game if you take the puck. You know what? I'll give you the center line. Like, you could take it into neutral, but you cannot go into your own zone on purpose. So because, I'm sorry, the shootout was productive for the Wild, which is great. To your point, they won the game. But you know what? It would have been more fun to watch 10 minutes of 3-on-3 with a rule that you can't purposely try and go, what's the hockey equivalent of basketball's old four corners. But still fun stuff. Shout out. Let's give some shout outs here too, and I think people are going to fall off their chairs. Let's start with this one. Yakov Trenin, and I don't know what the analytics say about his day, but Yakov Trenin, from both of us, I think, we both thought this, had a hell of a game. And if this is what you're going to get, and again, this translates to playoff games, it was impressive. And skinnier Trenin definitely held up the entire game, but he's still tough enough. He can throw his weight around. He can create problems. So shout out one, number 13.
He's been good. He's been real good. And I told you and Jesse this in our text thread on Wednesday night watching the game against Chicago. And now in tonight, I think I like him now. I think I'm really starting to like Yakov Trenin.
Well, there's nothing not to like tonight.
Yeah, the way he's been playing and going back to the Chicago game, sticking up for, I want to say it was Eric Sinek who got that hit in the corner after kind of just taking a cheap shot to the lower back area where he's had problems before and all this other stuff. Showing up and like defending your team goes a long way with me, because it feels like for as good as this team has been in the month, there's not a lot of fight at certain times and sticking up for your teammates. Him coming to the aid there goes a long way with me. But just besides that point, what we've seen from him the past week or two, he's been working harder. He looks engaged. He knows his role and he's really embracing it. He's leading the league in hits by a pretty healthy margin. He's creating opportunities. Now, would I love for some of these opportunities that he's being handed and creating to be finished more? Yes, I would. But I know what we're getting. I know the player that's out there. I'm not expecting him to turn into this, all-star athlete.
The hands aren't real soft.
They're not. But
shooting-wise.
But everything else is incredible. And if this is, I think, what we would have gotten from Yakov Trenin at the start of last season, there would be no prejudice about him or my former, I'm not going to say hatred, but disdain for his play. This looks like the guy and now is valuing what Bill Guerin went out and signed in the offseason 2 years ago.
So at least, and I do agree, his play has picked up. The fact he came into training camp in shape was great. I felt like his game today, though, and this guy didn't play because he's on the IR now. I felt like his game today was a prime Marcus Foligno game, right? Which is he's hitting guys, he's affecting the game. He might not score a goal, but he definitely is a threat. Like he's a problem for your opponent. And I believe when Foligno's playing his best, that's what he brings. And look, that doesn't mean that you don't score, but it doesn't mean that you're being relied upon to score. And like Trenin, I felt like his game very much was that style of game. And yes, overall, consistently, he still makes some dumb plays, but overall, consistently, he's done far more. So that's the first one. Second one, Ryan Hartman is back, and shout out to him. The pass to Caprizov for the second goal, thanks, sir, was absolutely beautiful. He came back from what? A 2-game absence? It was not long, but he came back from an absence of a few games, stepped right in, centered the third line, and I thought played really well, especially for a very high-paced game against a very good team, first game back. So shout out to Ryan Hartman, who, if nothing else, that pass from behind the net to Caprizov looked a lot like what 36 can do, because it was absolutely perfect and set up the 201st goal of Kirill Kaprizov's career.
It was a really good game for Ryan Hartman. And I kind of made the joke offhanded to you, like that's exactly what John Hines needs to see in order to send him right back up to that top center role. I do think Danil Yurov still should be there for the time being. I think he's deserved it. I think he plays like a top line center, especially between Caprizov and Zuccarello, just given his defensive acumen. But Ryan Hartman there, I think, because of, especially on the left wing, Liam Ogren, if they sit him for a double shift of Caprizov, they do have that skill there. And then that kind of, with the hardworking Trenyan, that line is actually kind of interesting. He's played well on the faceoff dot. They put him out there for a couple in offensive zone draws because they had trusted him. And if let's see, I'm trying to find it here. He was 4 for 6. It was a subpar day on the dot for the Wild. 4 for 10. 4 for 10. He was 4 and 6 on the day. 4 for 10 overall. He is a center in this team, just based on like the skill and whatnot. Like, I think he probably could bump out to the wing, but right now he is slotted in for that third line center. And I think he's playing really well. Like, it just fits his style of game. And that's something that we've talked about. The way that he plays the game and the way that he approaches it mentally, kind of this like past hard working, gets under the opponent's skin. And he's been, I think, a little more disciplined this year for the most part. Like, we haven't had that backfire, attack somebody, and it just puts your team in a hole here.
He dropped off before he got hurt, though, because he started off the season playing great, like a ball of fire, and then he dropped off, and he always does this, and then it's like, what, like, you don't have to be an idiot to play hard, but like today, it felt like he got engaged again, so I like that.
Yeah.
And just to check out the stats here that we just got, Ryan Hartman today, 5 shots. 5 shots as well. So a really nice day. I mean, that third line of Hartman, Trennan on the right, and of all people, Liam Ogren on the left. And I told you, I think it was in the third period, I noticed Liam Ogren, number 28 today, more than I have almost all season long. I don't know what got into him. I don't know if he got another talking to or what. And look, there are going to be, with guys eventually coming back here, there's going to be battles for jobs. But I thought that was, and I'm not saying it was a great game, but I thought that was one of Liam Ogren's most engaged games. And overall, I thought that third line was really, really effective.
It was. And that's why that's why I just don't think you can bury a guy like Liam Ogren on that fourth line. Because one, the line's not good enough to get enough time for them to really do anything, but also just the role there. Ben Jones, Nico Sturm, and Tyler Pitlick. I think Ben Jones had 6 minutes of ice time tonight, 6:48 compared to the 10 and some change for Ogren.
Yeah, those two wings can go. That's
it's a different style, right? It's just a different style of hockey that those two lines, are playing.
Yep.
And Liam Ogren with Ryan Hartman, and now actually a pretty productive Trennan, he's able to show off a little bit more what I think is his game. I mean, we saw the physicality. He dumped, God, I don't even know who it was. I think it was
along the boards, the far board, yeah.
I think it was Devin.
I think it was Taze.
He dumped him, and you saw the muscle and kind of just the work he put in the offseason to bulk up a little bit. But then also you're seeing at times the shot that he has. You're seeing some of the harder working below the line, a goal line play that he's able to add to the game. And it's highlighting a little bit more like, this is sort of who they expect him to be. Mm-hmm. If you can get a couple solid games out of him, and this is where Wallstedt found a lot of confidence, and now look at how he's playing. I don't think Liam Ogren has ever been a similar level of prospect ceiling wise as what you'd expect from Wallstedt. But if he finds after a few games, he's getting confidence back in him, the coaching staff is finally finding some confidence in him. I wonder what that would do to elevate his game from where it's been.
I would like to see him get that chance. Today was actually a very encouraging thing. There's been a lot going against him. I mean, it's just clear that the coaching staff and the front office have not liked his style or what he hasn't done. But yeah, as Urban says here, it's Ogren's best game by far this season because you noticed him. I mean, it just starts with that, right? It doesn't necessarily have to start with points. It's like, do you notice the guy's number doing things? And it is going to be interesting when guys start to come back. I mean, eventually here at some point in time, Marco Rossi's going to return. Well, your centers right now are Yurov, Eriksson, Hartman, and Sturm. Eventually, Foligno comes back. And so you start to get guys back a bit. But, hey, we're getting a bunch of comments here, Age. So let's address it. Kirill Kaprizov in the shootout. Now, somebody said he hadn't scored a shootout goal in like a couple of years. I don't know if that's true or not. But the reality is he was the one guy who I turned to you and said, what was that? Because Wedgwood, like, clearly had problems with guys' moves. Zuccarello made a pretty simple move. He scored a goal. Boldy made a move, scored a goal. Caprizov came in and sort of just shot. Are we looking at, and look, he would not be the first superstar who is not fantastic on breakaways. Are we looking at a situation, and I know it's a blow to the ego potentially, so there's a hot button topic that I'm about to address, so brace yourself. Are we looking at a situation where Kirill Kaprizov is not one of your 3 top guys in a shootout?
I feel like I have a totally messed up history for him in the shootout, because I could have sworn when he first came to the league, he was lights out. I could have sworn he had that
sure
move.
You can find it.
He kind of comes in on the through the right face-off circle.
Sure.
And he does a forehand back to backhand and then can shelf it like short side. And I thought that was his automatic bread and butter for the first couple seasons. And maybe it's just one of those where he misses. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. They just bested him here.
Right.
But you're right. Tonight, he tried to pick a corner. And I think that's a problem. And frankly, that's one of my bigger pet peeves in the shootout. It is, you have essentially as much time, as long as you're moving forward, as much time in the world as you want. And granted, not everybody's a Patrick Kane, not everybody's a Pavel Datsyuk, but you should at least be making some sort of move. I mean, Christ, Freddie Gaudreau looked like a god in the shootout when he was on this team.
2 years ago, right?
2 years ago.
It finally dropped off last season, but yes, he did.
But the guys who know and have a plan, you should be able to at least make some sort of move. When you try to just pick a corner and beat the goaltender, I don't care how good of a shot you have. In 5-on-5, great. In the shootout, you have all the time in the world to make the goalie make a move, react, do something, and do what Natchez did tonight, what Matt Boldy did tonight, which is freeze him. Make him jump and open up a side of the net. That's what you should be doing. And so when you walk up there, and this is where Matt Zuccarello usually frustrates me, because he tries to pick a corner, I think, a little bit too much. Maybe they had scouting on Wedgwood, and that's makes it even more frustrating as to why Caprizov wouldn't then make a move, because clearly they had the leg up when they did. So I don't know if I'm ready to jump to that conclusion yet on Caprizov. I could have sworn he had a good move, but I mean, if this continues,
he's not using it. He's not using it.
He's not using it. So if that continues, though, then I think that's a conversation down the road.
My recommendation for him would be simple. If that's what you're going to do, if you're going to try to pick a corner on a shot like that, go full Brian Wallstedt. Stop when you cross the blue line and let that go, because he's got that shot. That's a sneaky shot. He scored a bunch of goals, and it's not always because of a screen. So, like, if you are going to pick a corner, do it when the goaltender does not expect it, because I feel like when they hang with you and you're trying to pick a corner and you get too close, it makes it tough, because when the goaltender comes out at all, it takes away your space, or what you can perceive as your space. So if you're going to do that, okay, cross the blue line shortly after, let go with that shot. I don't remember the last guy who's gone Brian Wallstedt. I think it's been a few years. I know goaltenders don't like it and get sort of pissed off, but who cares? It's pro sports.
Yeah. You're not hearing friends.
Yeah, so that would be my recommendation is just try that for now, because I think you'd score a couple of goals. Now, once guys saw it, they'd get, used to it. But I remember when Ralston would do that, it was absolutely incredible.
If this is true, then I'm going to do some research after this show. But if this is true, we're going to have a serious conversation. Because if he hasn't scored a shootout goal since December 4th of 2021, why is he out there? Like, yeah, he is your franchise
now you're pulling
player.
the plug on him.
Well, I didn't think it was essentially 4 years.
I'm going to look on my...
It's been 4 years.
I mean, it's very possible.
It is. I mean, you don't do it. It's not like you do it every night. But
right.
God,
right.
I don't want to not believe at Britt James here, but I also am not buying into that just yet. He just feels like too good of a player to not score since then. I'll have to.
Do you know, back before you were born, do you know who hated who hated at the time breakaways with a passion.
Breaking.
It was his least favorite thing.
Is back before I was born?
Back before you were born, the best player in hockey hated breakaways.
Wayne Gretzky?
Hated them. Didn't like them. Said he wasn't that good at them and absolutely despised them. Now, I think he might have improved, but the fact was, he said he was not. I remember there was a stat in the 80s for a while where he was not great. And that, of course, is pre-shootout. But, it's so like, I mean, it's just some guys. I mean, it looks like Caprizov on a breakaway or on the shootout is just not that great. But again, this is a whole thing about ego. Like if John Hines going to call, he's going to call 17 million, my ass. You can't score in a shootout. I mean, that's a big time potential problem. So we'll see. But let's see if I got a couple more things. I thought I did here before we wrap up from a fantastic game. So Buffalo tomorrow.
Yes. If we can we talk about that for a second, because somebody made a point earlier, and then I'm not going to be able to find the comment, but somebody made a comment earlier saying, based on what you've seen this month now and what you have seen from this team tonight, Buffalo should be a 3-goal victory or more. Like this should be a very convincing win for the Wild. And I don't care that it's back-to-back.
That's what I'm going to ask you.
This is an afternoon matinee. This should be a convincing win for the Wild tomorrow. And if they win 1-0, if they win 3-4 or 4-3 or something like that, and we are able to have a rational discussion about, you know what, the bounces just didn't go their way, and they clearly eye test wise outplayed them, and they should have won 5-1. Then that's one thing. But if you come in here and you do this another overtime, and then you backtrack in overtime, you go to the shootout and you try to get a point that way, then I think my perception on this team is they know how to cater to the opposition, but not always in a positive way. Today they catered to how the Avalanche want to play hockey, and they did a really good job shutting them down at times, but also throwing their game back in their face. But you can't lower your level of play if you're a good hockey team.
Yes, you can. That's the problem.
But you should.
I agree.
You shouldn't lower your level of play if you're a good hockey team to a lesser opponent. So tomorrow, I think, like, I'm ready to say and declare right now that the November Minnesota Wild are the Minnesota Wild, but it could all get reversed and come toppling down. It's a house of cards from my belief in this team if they lose or have a very close game with the Buffalo Sabres tomorrow evening here.
And they'll say if they do lose, it's a trap game, and we played so hard. But I agree completely. Like, this is a great game. I love the back-to-back because this gives you sort of a test of now. If you go back to Wednesday too, keep in mind in that first period of Chicago, they were terrible. They were awful. Urban says the Wild are real. Urban, I'm going to caution you. I have made this assumption a couple of times through the years. I remember one time back in the Koivu Granlund Parisi Suter days where I'm like, this team's for real. Like, I've just decided this team is for real. And do you know what they did? They let me down. So I'm not there yet. Look, they played horrible hockey in October, so they deserve to be criticized. They have played now a month of really good, to at times great hockey. But this is a long season, and my question is, what is at the end of the day, are you going to work as hard as you have worked this month to rectify things, and are you going to continue to work like that? And if you are, I think that you can be a very effective team. But I'm not willing to buy in fully yet because October sort of scared me a little bit because, I mean, that's first of all, go look at the standings. The standings in both conferences, if I'm not mistaken, the parity is stupid. I mean, it's incredible, Age. And so, like the Wild has, 32 points now. They're in third place in the Central, but a bad week, and you're out of the playoffs. So I'm going to slow my roll just a little bit here. I appreciate they're playing well. It's a lot more fun to watch. It's a hell of a lot more fun to talk about. But yeah, Buffalo will be another game. And the Wednesday game in Chicago, the way that they came out, I was not pleased with. In post-game, they basically said, oh, man, we stole 2 points. Boldy talked about that. John Hines said, well, we weren't at our best, but blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't have – I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You're going to have off nights. You had off nights. It was called the month of October. So I expect you to bring it almost every single game, unless you simply, if Kaprizov gets hurt again, that changes my opinion for sure. If Boldy gets hurt, God willing he doesn't in the Olympics, that changes my opinion. But if you have your top players, they took a month off. That was October. They didn't start the season. So now I want it through spring. I want how they have played. And so this whole thing of, and the other problem too is a bad game can lead to a series of bad games, AJ. Yeah. So I'm of the firm opinion that their feet need to be held to the fire. This needs to continue. And if this continues, you might have a chance, and I say might, in the playoffs.
Just because I'm on statmuse.com right now, and as of the past 3 seasons, including this one, it looks like Kirill Kaprizov has not scored in a shootout. I can't tell how many chances he's gotten, but they do credit him with a 45.5% success rate in the 2022-23 season. So December 4th, 2021, potentially that might be an error with Google saying like that might have been his first one, potentially, because that was he didn't record one in the 2020-21 season. He was 33.3% in 2021-22. But nonetheless, this is a long-winded way of saying, apparently based on a very light skim of the internet, he has not scored in a shootout since potentially the 22-23 season.
Okay.
And that is a bit of an issue.
Your memory of his start was spot on, though. So I found this. This comes from a piece that was written by Zone Coverage back in December of 2022, since we're going down the rabbit hole here. And here's what they wrote in December of 22. For his career at the time, Kirill Kaprizov has scored 6 times in 11 chances. Good for 54.5%. His first career shootout attempt came against the Sharks in March of 21. He went with a backhand move but missed. But anyway, at one point to start his career, 6 for 11, which is great. So you're right, and he's dropped off.
Okay. Well,
so let's just get the moves back.
Yeah, and that's I feel like they've shifted to, and maybe this is where the small Matt Zuccarello on his shoulders whispering, just shoot it. You're a good shot. Yeah. You don't have to make a move. You're better.
He should make moves. That's a great point.
Make a move. Treat it like a dance floor. Get out there and make a move. Bust a move.
And I love if you have, which I'm sure Kirill does because he's a really good player. If you have a good backhand shot, just use that shot, because that's a hard shot. Like a backhand shot can flutter. It does a lot of weird things. So yeah. And if Zuki is saying just shoot the puck, then don't just shoot the puck. Make a move and score. I think that's all I have here. How about you? Any final thoughts? I think that's all I've got written down. I've got a series of notes here in my chicken scratch, which is not great, but I think I've exhausted them.
No, I think the only other thing that maybe is worth a discussion at some point is when people come back into the team and are healthy. I think the one that really sticks off the page for me would be Marco Rossi, just because now it's you extended him in the offseason, and there was this whole, you demoted him last year in the playoffs down to the 4th line. You brought him back. You've had him as your number 1 center, and now you're really buzzing here and finding success with Danila Yurov at that top line. You're not going to bump Joel Eriksson off the second, and Ryan Hartman, like I said, you saw one flash, and I think that's enough for the vote of confidence from John Hines. So where does Marco Rossi slot back in? I don't know if that's a conversation for right now. That could be fleshed out more on a later episode of JHS. But if you have some more thoughts on that, I would love to hear them.
I thought you nailed it by saying it would be comfortable to move Hartman to the wing and Rossi to center, which I think you talked about on the last show that we did with our friend Jesse Pierce on Wednesday. I would be very comfortable. And keep in mind, too, Hartman is not consistent. So, really nice game today, 5 shots on goal, fantastic assist. But we go through a series of games where he's fine. He's not really a bad player, but he doesn't do a ton. Mm-hmm. I'd be very comfortable but I will say this right now. I think I would jump in front of the train if they try to put Rossi back on that first line. Not because I don't like him, but Yurov, to me, is so responsible. I feel like he's just a great fit because I think we talked about this when we did a show on Monday. I forget. But anyway, what I like about this is, Zuccarello and Kaprizov are sort of their own enterprise, and it's sort of tough to fit in. But, like, it's not going to be like the center on that line drives that line.
Sure.
It's always going to be 97 and 36, and they want to look for each other and blah, 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 which, by the way, for the most part works. So I'm not criticizing it. But Yurov, to me, because of his defensive responsibility, I think is a great fit there. Because at the top of the show, we talked about this. Kirill Kaprizov is not necessarily the most responsible player. And Zuccarello is a very savvy vet. But I don't know if you agree or disagree with me here. But I think Yurov right now is a better fit as the center on that line than Rossi is.
And that's where I think the conversation starts. Because I think Danil Yurov, until he gives you a reason to take him off the first line, should remain on the first line. He's been a good. This is something that we've kind of talked about, and you brought this up, I want to say this past week, which is
so many shows. We do so many shows.
Marco Rossi, prior to getting injured, since in the time between he got injured and Matt Zuccarello coming back into the lineup, it looked like the Ralphie tagging along in A Christmas Story.
I love
like
that
he's
movie.
there. Would you say you don't like them?
No, I love that movie.
Okay, bro.
Oh, I've watched it a million times.
He's there, but it's like they don't really want him. Like he's there because the mom said, "Hey, Ralphie, you're tagging along. You're like you got to go to
His
school."
little brother.
He's the brother, yeah, and absolutely, he's there whether you love him or not. He's there.
Yep.
But Danil Yurov looks like a better fit. He looks like an actual friend. Like he looks like the somebody who fits in and can actually bounce the play off and coerce, and the chemistry is a little bit higher, at least. Whether it's just he's a fellow Russian, and so there's some weird thing there.
I think he's comfortable with his role.
Do you think that's what it is?
Yeah, I think Marco, and I don't blame him one bit. I think Marco thinks I should probably be involved more offensively, right? Like I should be more involved offensively. That's my job.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong here, but it feels like your state of mind is, okay, I'll help offensively, but I'm going to damn make sure my defensive zone play is responsible. And if I'm John Hines, I love that because that's how this team is going to win. Like this team is not going to win by, oh man, they won another game 8-5. Can't believe it. A lot of goals against, but a lot of goals for. This is going to be a team that wins games just like today that are tight. And the goaltending was great, but the responsibility that like a guy like Yurov has becomes incredibly important. So yeah, I think Marco Rossi's thing is, I think he is trying to think, how can I get myself involved offensively? Not in a selfish way, but that's just sort of the player he is. Yeah. And Yurov, I think, is like, okay, what can I do to help out offensively? But also the most important thing is I need to make up for shortcomings from a center position on that first line. The only other discussion is, would you move, and this could be a fun topic, would you give Rossi a shot with Boldy and Johansson and create a killer line that would basically be the grief line on steroids of Eriksson, Trennan, and Foligno eventually. And then Hartman would go down to the fourth line. But Ben Jones and Tyler Pitlick, thank you for your service. But I mean, that would be a playoff line. They would be a nightmare for a top line. Nightmare, AJ.
One, you'd have to get the right buy-in if you move him down, because like Ryan Hartman, I think, wants to play a certain style of hockey. And if you're putting Eriksson instead of, pairing him with tonight, Liam Ogren and Jakub Trennan, it's a little more offensively balanced. And not that Joel Eriksson isn't offensive whatsoever, but like if you bump him down, you have to have an agreement, a pact amongst that line saying we're playing a certain way, whether you want to or not. If you can get that buy-in, that third line gets me excited in more ways than one, because if you can put Rossi on the second line, you can have a little bit of that offensive spurt there. That's two, assuming it works, two pretty talented top lines. And then you have right now what we're talking about is the makeup of a team that could and should then make a run in the playoffs.
Win a series? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm trying to say that team should win a series. Will they? Probably not. But
they're a nightmare.
You're right. That gives that's a built for a playoff run type of team.
Correct.
And then it's trade deadline. You're not looking for a scorer as much as you are third or fourth line kind of grit. And this is where, this is where I pushed back immediately on Wednesday night. The broadcast said, the Wild might want to look and trade for Marcus's brother, Nick Foligno. I was like, I don't see the fit there at all. And I don't see the fit with Nick Foligno still, but instead of looking top six, you're looking, they're trying to tell us.
Turn the lights on. I'm working. Trying to work here.
Instead of looking top six and paying a pretty hefty price, and granted they have the first round pick to do so, you're able to maybe finesse more than that with somebody who's fitting in on that third or fourth line, who's a big body, who's grit. And I'm not talking Justin Brazeau. I'm talking about a real productive third line grinder. So.
Right. And and I'm not surprised. The immediate comments back are, but Boldy and Eck have been so good together, and that's exactly right. They have been. But what we're talking about, what we're talking about here, folks, again, just like with Wallstedt, we're talking about playoff approaches. Like what you're seeing now, we ain't in the playoffs, folks. We ain't even close, okay? Yeah. So if you put Foligno and Trennan playing like he is right now with Eck, and you put them out against a first line, they are going to create huge problems. And now there's another light off.
We are doing
this is absolutely incredible. This is so... folks, if you don't want us doing the show from here, send us a cease and desist or something. Anyway... I'm going to wrap it up. But we will continue because I think this is a fun discussion. We will continue what the Wild will do when more guys come back. We will continue to talk about the goaltending, which is exciting again. But the most important thing, I don't care if they do turn the lights off. The most important thing is that this team, again, is fun to talk about. So like and subscribe. Judd's Hockey Show After Dark. Yes, in the dark. It's not after dark. It's in the dark.
It's currently
But yeah, join us. Tell your friends about us. If you have hockey fans who have not discovered us yet, make sure that they know, because we do a ton of shows per week. We're joined on Wednesdays by our friend Jessie Pierce. Don't forget also, her and Kirsten Kroll do the Bar Down Beauties podcast, which is now part of the Score North family. Super exciting game today. Great stuff. Let's see if the Wild can continue it on Saturday against the Buffalo Sabres. He's AJ. I'm Judd. We are now going to turn out the lights officially and shut down our machines.